I didn't think that movie was gonna be as good as it was. Didn't think Barbie would be the surprise movie of 2023. Today, I am here to give you my personal take on the movie Barbie, alright? And before I get started, I just want to make a couple things clear. I stand in this, where I plant my feet at on men versus women stuff, I plant my feet personally, where I just want everybody to kind of find their middle ground. Whether it be you a trick dude, they're the woman that likes to be tricked on. Whether you are a husband that wants to take care of his family and a wife wants to be a stay-at-home wife. I want everybody pretty much to get in where they fit in, all right? And that'll make this a lot easier for everyone. Now, for what everybody came here to see, okay, the first thing that grabbed me about this movie was, okay, my initial thought going into this is like, okay, this is going to be a girly movie, which it was like a motherfucker. Don't get me wrong. My girlfriend really wanted to see it. So I was like, okay, we're doing this thing now where we go see movies that the other person likes. Like the one that we saw before this was Transformers Rise of the Beast. I wanted to see that one and she wanted to see Barbie. So I was like, fuck it. She was like, no, stay home. You ain't got to go. Don't worry about it. I was like, nah, I'll go with you. Because, personally, me, I'm just a supportive ass nigga. So it's just like, even if I don't like it and it's something you feel strongly about, I support you in it because I support you, if that makes sense. Now, the first thing that grabbed me about this movie is that throughout the movie, this is a very multi-layered movie. Like, if you're a podcaster and someone that says a lot about podcasting or looks at a lot of podcasts, you'll get a lot out of this. Like, I think whoever made this movie has been paying attention to the state of the world that it is in today. Like, I mean, like, as it is based off the internet and, what people say online and what people say in interviews, well, not interviews, podcasts, but what people say in interviews and what people say in podcasts, the things guys get mad about, a lot of that's in here. It's a lot of, like, multi-layered stuff in this movie. You know what I mean? Now, the movie pretty much starts out where, Barbie world is, you guessed it, women run the world. And what makes it so funny, like, I'm telling you, the layers in this thing, I think this thing is a really beautifully crafted movie. I really like this movie. I didn't think I would say that about a Barbie movie. But I like when someone throws a lot of stuff in there that I can grasp onto. So, in the movie, women rule the world. Like, every girl's giving every girl compliments. No one's ever ugly. Everybody's perfect. Like, oh, it's like a Senator Barbie, a Judge Barbie, just whatever you can think of Barbie, there's a Barbie for it. And all of them, it's like, women run the world. Now, what I got out of this scene in particular, I think this is how girls see themselves. Like, to a degree, a little bit. Like, if there were no, how can I say it? If the world wasn't male dominated, I think this is how women see the world if men, did not have control. The problem is the flip that they did on it, and this is just personally what I saw out of it, right? The flip that they did on it is that Barbie world is one place and the real world is another. So take that however you like. Like, this is a very satire-heavy movie. Like, there's a lot of shit in here. Like, if you're a person that pays attention to what's really going on, like the flip, the Barbie thing, when, they show you in the beginning of the movie, it's like Barbie, it's like, every day for Barbie, technically speaking, is a perfect day, right? Where, they showed Barbie riding through her neighborhood, and it's like Barbie's giving compliments. Every Barbie's complimenting the other Barbie. Oh my God, you're so cute. You're so beautiful. You're this, you're that. And to me, I latched on to that part particular because I think that's how girls think that they think on the internet. Like, it made me think of the internet, how girls like compliment each other. Like, it's like, okay, you can take that from two ends where it's like, okay, on one end, a girl has to compliment another girl because guys don't do it. You know what I mean? On the other end, it's kind of inflated to the point where they do it so bad. To where it's like, this girl's complimenting this girl, and this girl's complimenting this girl. It's like everybody's pretty just because they're pretty. And it's like, oh my God, everything's amazing. And it's all pink and it's all, oh my God, everything is just the best. Like, Barbie, like, okay, no real life shit happens to Barbie. I mean in that first little 10 minutes they show it, from the time she wakes up, makes the food, she has a shower, she makes the perfect pancakes, up until the point where she meets Ken on the beach. Like, that is like such a, I think that's like a pocket of internet where it's like motherfuckers feel as though this is just what Ronell's brain is saying. That motherfuckers feel like because they wake up and, you know, jump online, that everybody's supposed to give them compliments. Like, that's what that scene said to me. So, we get to the part where Barbie meets Ken. Personally, if you had to ask me, Ken is the guy that played Ken, or just the Ken character. Personally, to me, that's my favorite character of the whole movie. The nigga was hilarious. Like, and I mean, like, white boy, I knew a guy that used to act like Ken. That's why I can kind of relate to it, where it's like, Ken is like a mixture of fucking Logan Paul meets HBK, Shawn Michaels, meets like, I don't know, Scott Pilgrim versus the world. Like, he's a very, I'm trying to figure out a way to word it. He's a very, like, soft, kind of scared, like, timid kind of dude. But at the same time, he's able to, like, swing between timid and cocky, if that makes sense. Like, there's a back and forth there between timid and cocky. That's what I got out of it, right? So, the Ken doll, right? Ken, to me, represents a lot of dudes that like the Barbie, which is quote-unquote the bad bitch, right? Which I'm not saying Barbie is on some bad bitch shit. She's really on some white girl shit. What I'm saying is Ken represents the guy that likes the girl that doesn't like him back, right? And Ken, generally, that's Ken's whole, like, for the most part, character, right? Ken keeps trying to, like, talk to Barbie. He's trying to come over her house. Basically, he's trying to sleep with her. Now, Ken ain't got no dick. Like, obviously, because it's, you know, these guys, it's life imitating art. Like, Barbie don't have no equipment. Ken don't have no equipment. But Ken wants to sleep with Barbie. Like, he likes Barbie like that. But Barbie don't like Ken like that because Barbie's into herself. Like, you see where this is going. Now, I think a lot of guys can relate to the Ken character because I think a lot of guys have been Ken. Meaning, like, it was the girl they liked that they gave all the energy and just was like, oh my God, you know, I really want to be with you. But Barbie was on some type of, like, I wouldn't call it airhead shit. It's just, it's that fucking blind woman shit that they do when they realize that, you know, there's a guy that likes them, but she only sees him as a friend. Like, okay, a dude will, and again, I've already been over this, but a dude will full on like a girl, and then she'll only put him in the friend category because how he comes at it. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you try to be a friend to a girl, knowing that you like this girl, that's a poor choice of action because she's going to put you in the friend category, and that's pretty much what happened to Ken. Ken was coming at this shit real soft and wasn't really being like, listen, I like you, I fuck with you, we linking up or what? And I mean, he took that, I don't want to say white boys kind of approach. He took that approach where it's like, okay, I'm going to hang around you till you like me. And that's what he was trying to do. So I think a lot of niggas can relate to Ken on that level. Now, we get to the part where they get into the real world. And I'm not saying I'm a super break this movie down. I'm just pretty much telling you the shit that I got out of it that landed with me personally. Now, Ken and Barbie, you know, basically what makes Barbie go to the real world is, like, to make a long story short, Barbie's feet, you know, they're stuck in like a high heel position, and eventually whoever the fuck is playing with Barbie in the real world is fucking with Barbie in the Barbie world. I don't want to stick on that too long because we'll be here all day. Barbie feels herself becoming like, you know, like finding faults, and, you know, Barbie's learning that she's not perfect. You see where we're going with this. So she meets the weird Barbie. Weird Barbie says you gotta go to the real world, find the girl that's playing with you, and pretty much fucking up your life. Like, So Barbie leaves Barbie World, and you know the whole montage they do, and Ken's pretty much in the back seat with her, you know, being the supportive male friend that he thinks that he is, even though he likes Barbie. Again, the Ken character is the one. Ken character was the one that stuck out to me the most. So it's like, because I mean I think that's the typical male journey. You're sitting there trying to be there for this girl, supportive, you care about this at the third. And you're giving, but she only sees you as a friend, because you gotta think about it. Barbie's in a position to where everybody thinks she's perfect. So you're sitting there telling her all this cute shit, and it's like, you're just adding fuel to the fire that everybody else is adding to. But anyway, right? We get to the part where they get into the real world. And this is where shit pretty much hits the fan. Mostly for Barbie, right? You know, she's skating, she's skating around, doing all this other shit. Men are like leering at her, catcalling her. One dude smacks her ass, and she just, this whole real world scenario, it just fucks her shit up so bad to the point where it's like she's getting emotional. She's like, Barbie's being put on such a pedestal that she's not even used to feeling negative feelings. And that's what the real world is like when you bring, put it this way, what I got out of that, right, is a lot of girls have their head in the clouds, right? And when you bring them down to reality and tell them that this is how the real world is, it's like the way she reacted to that shit was like, nah, this can't be real. This can't be how life really is. No, bitch, this is how life really is. Now, again, with the Ken doll, you can practically split this movie into two halves. I think they played off each other real well. This is just how I personally feel about it. Ken does what most dudes do when they find out about masculine shit. Meaning, like, okay, to me, when Ken started finding the man shit, like, because you gotta think, the Barbie world is ran by women. So it's men living in a woman-based world. So they're not thinking about their own masculinity and none of this. The men are just there to be strong, be cocky, and be attractive for the Barbies. And that's their whole purpose. Because the girl even asked, there's like, hey, where do all the Ken dolls go at the end of the day? And the girls is like, I don't know. Because they don't give a fuck. them Barbie dolls didn't give a fuck what Ken did. But anyway, right? Ken gets to the point where he starts finding all the man shit. Now, in the red pill world, we have this thing in because I'm not really on it the same way it used to be. In the red pill world, they have this thing what they call red pill awareness. Again, these are the things that are hitting me personally as I'm watching the movie. What most guys go through up until they find red pill content is they think all the stuff that's told to a guy up until the point where you find red pill content is, because personally I've been through this. Was like, because my mom was like, be nice to girls, be kind, be a gentleman, hold doors open, be a good guy, you know, compliment her, take her out to dinner, win her over. That's pretty much the Ken character up until he finds the male information, which is pretty much the representation of the male content on the internet. There's a lot of satire in this movie. So when Ken finds a lot of this male content, he starts acting hella mannish. Like he just turns his masculinity knob all the way up to 11. So he's like, oh, men are the ones that run this shit? Like, now if you ask me, technically speaking, yes. If you ask me what I think of it, I think a lot of times men do run the world. Now, there's two sides to that coin. Men do run the world, but however, a lot of y'all, the guys that do allegedly, quote unquote, run the world, y'all have a really fucked up way of misusing your power, which we'll get to that later. Now, I forgot to mention that the Ken doll that was, because every dude in the Ken in the Barbie universe is named Ken, all of them, at least in Barbie world. Now, here's a little flip on top of what I was already seeing, because I forgot to mention it earlier. The Ken doll that liked the Barbie doll that was the main character, that Barbie liked the other Ken that was the black hair dude. Like, you know, which, that in itself, that I don't think a lot of people would catch that, but I mean, it's one of them things where it's like, a lot of girls don't like the guy that likes them. They like the guy that that doesn't give a fuck about them. That's a lot of women. Like, again, My mom had raised me to be nice, be caring, be kind, be caring, this, all the other shit. What she didn't tell me, which I had to find out from my dad, is that a lot of that shit your mother tells you before you get out the house, women in the real world don't actually respond to that. Like, yes, like, okay, they respond to it, but not in the way you want them to. Meaning, like, okay, you can sit there, be nice, caring, kind, loving, supportive. I love you so much. I think you're the most amazing thing in the world. Beautiful, this and the third. That same girl that you're giving all that compliment to will go fucking asshole. Like, an asshole that won't call her back, an asshole that doesn't care, an asshole that doesn't even barely, like, is real toxic. Barbie is a touch, low key, she's toxic. Like, but it's like a slither. It's not a lot, because a lot of this stuff she's doing is like, she doesn't know that she's doing it. It's not like how most girls in the real world are when they're toxic and they know they're toxic and they don't give a fuck. But Barbie's toxicity comes from, like, her just not being aware of the shit she's doing. Because she drug Kim through that whole bullshit of trying to find herself, which really, if you ask me, it's Kim's fault for going along. But I get why he went along, because he really liked Barbie like that. But she drugged that motherfucker through that whole adventure of finding herself. Now, I got to get to the flip of that on Barbie, because this might, the more I'm talking about this video, because there's a lot of shit in it, the more this is going to be a long one. Now, here's the more pro-woman half of the movie, right? So Barbie gets over to the real world, and I'm not going through this whole movie play by play, because that would take entirely too long. And that's another thing. I need to start doing movies outside of just relationship based content. But anyway, right, we're here. So, excuse me, Barbie is basically in the real world to find the girl, you know, that's playing with her, that is kind of making her weird, which there's a weird Barbie in the movie, but, you know, that's like a representation of, like, being the weird girl. Anyway, right? So, I'm trying to figure out a way to sum this up to make it short, because I don't want to drag this out too long. The woman that's playing with Barbie, right, she kept projecting her insecurities on the Barbie. Now, Barbie, technically, in this movie, is a representation of, like, I guess the standard that women, A, feel like men put on them, and B, women put on themselves. Because the way that women were talking in this movie, like, they all were, like, explaining that their perspective on life. And it's like, they feel like they can never do anything right because, you know, the rules are too confusing from the woman perspective. Now, I'm not a woman, so I don't know, per se, firsthand. My girlfriend would probably be able to explain that a lot better. But the more I kept hearing every girl say it, because the way my mind works is like, if I hear something once, I might not believe it. If I hear it twice, then it's like, all right. If I hear the third time, then it's like, okay, this needs to be examined more. So basically, you know, to make a long story short, the woman that was, you know, that worked at Mattel, which is the big Barbie company, that's hilarious. You know, she was like a designer for Barbie. So this woman was going through a lot of shit in her life. Her husband went together. She was living alone, raising a daughter, stressed out, trying to work a job. She just was dealing with a lot of shit. Like, and I mean, a lot of shit in the sense of, like, woman problems. Because the things that I thought were problems, to me, were not really problems. But that's the flip that the movie does, because it tells you from a woman's perspective. Because, I mean, you as a guy, you might not be able to relate to the woman problems because you're a guy. You're not going to relate to that half of it. But the insecurity of, like, oh, I feel like I'm getting fat. I feel like I'm getting depressed. So it's like, you know, there's a scene in the Barbie movie where she stops the musical and she's like, oh, well, we're talking about, you know, I think about dying. And it's like, everybody's like, what? But anyway, right? So Barbie finds this woman. She takes the woman back to Barbie world. Again, I'm trying to shorten this up as much as I can, because the more I talk about it, the more stuff is in it. Takes the woman back to Barbie world, right? And the women, I think, what was it? I think Ken went back to the Barbie world before Barbie went back to the Barbie world with the lady that drew Barbie, if that makes sense, right? So on Ken's end, Ken done took all this man information and brought it back to the other Kens. Again, a representation of what happens when, like, okay, I feel like I've been on some real man shit for a while. So my toxic, I won't even call it toxic masculinity. I'm trying to figure out a way to word it. The internet has this thing where it's obsessed with alpha males. Like, I wouldn't say obsessed, but like, guys have this thing where they latch onto the idea of alpha male shit and they go way too far with it instead of just being like yourself. And that's the message that they painted from the Ken side. I tell you, I really like the Ken character because I think a lot of guys, there's something in this movie for everybody. So Ken pretty much takes the male information back to the other Kens. These guys flip Barbie world upside down, right? They out that motherfucker with, 4x4 Jeeps. He kicked Barbie out her house. This nigga walking around wearing minks and shades and chains. Like, Ken is in his full-on fuckboy. And that's what I mean when I say the Ken character is relatable to a lot of dudes. Because a lot of guys discover the masculinity, which is a representation of what the books were in the movie. A lot of guys pick up on that, take that information, and run with it. Like, okay, I got a friend right now. Well, my homeboy's homeboy, right? He done, since this whole explosion of, like, male content, which personally, me, I was on this shit a lot longer before everybody else, so I've had the time to die down off this shit. But when you first discover this fucking red pill male content shit, it will have you on some bullshit. Like, I would go around starting arguments with people. I would go around cussing motherfuckers out. I wouldn't say misogynistic shit, but I was just an unhinged dick. Like, which is what Ken does when he goes back to Barbie world. He turns that shit, he flips it upside down. Like, now, the other flip that they added in this movie is that when the Kens start acting more masculine, the girls end up liking the Kens more. Right? When you are sitting there acting like a dude that is just kissing a woman's ass, telling her all the shit she wants to hear, I'm going to be supportive, I'm going to be perfect. Because Barbie didn't really want Ken to go on that ride with her all the way back to the real world in the first fucking place. She wanted to go by herself. But when the Kens come back and the regular Ken gives all the other Kens God damn, I've been talking for a long time. When the regular Ken gives all the other Kens the male information, these motherfuckers all turn into fuck boys. All right? Which is what a lot of you niggas do when you get on this internet shit. When y'all haven't talked to women in real life, when you haven't gone out and lived a little bit, you start taking the information and being dickish about it. Now, we get to the part of the movie, right, where Barbie and the lady that draws Barbie or had the Barbie doll when she was a kid gets back to Barbie Land, right? So the women devise a plan to take back Barbie Land because Barbie Land is ran by women and it's also a representation that it's not the real world. So many little flips that they did in this movie. Anyway, right? Jesus Christ, I didn't think I had this much to say about it. But I really enjoyed the movie. So the women get back. So the women devise a plan. Like when Barbie gets back, all the women are enamored with the Kens because the Kens have got on some fuckboy shit. Which really, if Ken would have toned it down about 3-4 notches, he would have just been being a man about his shit. But, niggas got to take shit too far. So, what the women do is they play on low-key. And that's what I find hilarious about the movie. Because I had this exact thought, but I never really said it out loud. I think if it wasn't for, if women had more logic, if they thought more logic-based with their emotions, okay, men have this thing, you feel emotions, but emotions to us are kind of secondary. So even if you feel feelings, you're able to push that feeling to the side. Now, when you're younger, you're typically more emotional because you don't know about it. What I mean is that these girls, they sat here and they pretty much flipped all the Kens against them. They used the masculine shit that men like to do against the men. Which is why I say, a lot of times women could really run the world if it wasn't for emotions. If they wasn't on some old, I feel some type of way about this thing. Okay, if they were more consistent and less emotional, women could probably really take over this bitch and have y'all niggas doing everything. Because that's pretty much what they did to these Kens. What they did was, they go through this whole process of turning all the Barbies back into powerful women. Again, which I think that's in itself a representation of the whole femininity thing going too far. This story with the Barbie movie, it has so much shit in it, it swings both ways. There's an end where the masculine shit gets too crazy, and then there's an end where the feminine shit gets too crazy. Which really, personally, if you ask me, you just need to find a middle ground between the two. I personally don't represent that whole like Superman shit where it's like you got to be a man to the point where you're a dick. Anyway, so the women they're hanging around the kids, and I just ate a peanut butter bar, so I'm like double talking. But they sit there and they're doing the things. They're making the men feel important. They're like listening to them like rant on about The Sopranos for 4 hours. They're watching the guys play guitar. You know, women are being fake defenseless where they're like, oh, could you help me? And the guy's like, sure, because most guys have that protective shit. So it's like, you can't, like, okay, if you see a homeless woman and a homeless dude as a guy, more than likely you're gonna help the homeless woman, because it's easier to help a woman because it's just in you as a man to help a woman. Versus like another man helping another man. It's like, fuck you kinda, because I don't gotta give a fuck. And that was the other part about it. Like, okay, men's jealousy, because we don't talk about that enough. Well, it's like, what they did was, the girls would sit there and act like they liked the Ken dolls. They were just staring at them and everything, right? And what these girls would do is they would switch partners. They would be like, oh, okay, you said this one thing I didn't like, or whatever the case would be. They would just walk over to the other Ken doll right in front of the Ken. Like, and that, okay, to me, that's a representation of like starting fights. Like, okay, a girl could literally cause a whole entire bar fight, meaning like this girl pretends like she likes this guy, and I mean if it's a guy that's not smart enough to pick up on what's going on, she can pretend to like this guy, be hanging with him for a little bit, walk up to the other guy, pretend to like him for a little bit. And if you are the kind of guy that doesn't see the play that's going on, that this girl's just yanking your chain to fuck with you just because, what you'll do is you'll try to fight the guy. Like, knowing that she's the one causing all this chaos. But anyway, right? So they turn all the women back into powerful women. And at the end of the movie, well, kind of at the end of the movie, we're getting toward the end of the movie. You know, it gets to a point where somehow I can't remember that. I think I kind of like zone out. Because it gets to a point in the movie where the shit gets kind of weird. It's like one long musical. It's like Pitch Perfect 2, but like a Barbie movie, if that makes sense. So Ken's in Barbie's house because, you know, the women have taken everything back, and, you know, Ken really likes Barbie. Despite all this dumb shit he done did, he really actually likes this motherfucking woman. But Barbie still doesn't like him like that. So he done went through all this shit for this motherfucker, and she's still like, well, you know, I'm not like into you. You need to find yourself without me. And I think that's a very good point that she made. Like, a lot of guys, what they do is they latch on to women for their own identity. And don't say you niggas don't do it, you do it. Like, a lot of y'all latch on to women and y'all use women to make yourselves feel better about yourselves. Because here's the thing, a lot of you dudes are not secure in your masculinity. What I mean is, like, if you don't have the woman, you don't feel like you're whole. Like, and I mean, I think that's a part of the movie that did it, the same thing with the Barbie. I've been talking about this movie for damn near 30 minutes now. Anyway, so it gets to the part where Barbie has to come to Jesus moment where she's like, okay, I'm cool with like who I am, even though I'm a bit weird. She comes back to the real world, but she's able to maneuver in the real world without it like being such a culture shock. All right. Long story short, I mean, honestly, if you ask me, which that pretty much was the end of the movie, where she went back to work for corporate and get her own job and have her own stuff going on. All right. As far as Ken would have been alright if he would have just been himself. And I mean, like, found out who he was outside of trying to be Ken for Barbie. Because Ken was technically made for Barbie. But Ken never knew who he was outside of his purpose for being Barbie. And that's why a lot of those guys acted like that, because they didn't have their own identity. Like, they were Ken dolls, but the Ken doll is there for the Barbie. Barbie knew who the fuck she was. Oh, I'm this perfect person, this, that, the third. But anyway, you know, personally, me, I got a lot out of the movie, which I did not think I would have gotten out of it. I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, if you ask me, I rated a 7.5 just based off the stuff that was in it. Only reason why I break it down lower is because, look, as much satire as there is in this movie, this shit is still a fucking girl movie at the end of the day. Like, look, I'm a supportive nigga, but I don't think I would have went to watch this on my own had it not been for my girlfriend, and I would have missed this entire thing. So, you know, I'm gonna go find me something to do. Probably go work out for like a little bit. So, y'all have a good evening. Jesus Christ, this movie was long and exhausting to talk about. But I liked the movie. I got a lot of it. And I'm glad they didn't be so one-dimensional about it. You know, they actually told a story that, you know, I think a lot of people would resonate with. So, again, I just wanted to give my take on it. So, y'all enjoy y'all day. Y'all do what y'all want.